Hey everyone. Just wanted to talk about thoughts and emotions. Been thinking about it a little bit. Yesterday I had a pretty rough day. Things were difficult to say the least. And that led into a night full of difficult where it was hard to sleep. And then today, more difficult. And started to reflect on all that. And, as you've seen me say in previous videos, when you find yourself in a pattern of negative thinking or feeling a certain way, it's always good to step back, identify what it was, what the trigger was, what it's actually doing to you, and take a moment to back away from it, push it down, and try to replace that with something more positive. A more positive thought, a more positive emotion. But we've already talked about that, and we know that that works, but sometimes it's hard. And so I'm here to tell you that, even though I say do these things and that this is helpful, and I do believe that they are, and I do these things, I do take a step back, identify, reflect, replace. I also want to say that it's not always that easy. It's a struggle, and it takes a lot of conscious awareness to be able to step away from an emotion or step away from a thought and really look at it objectively. Also determine what the trigger was and then try to replace that and maybe not repeat that cycle. So I heard it said once on a documentary that thoughts are the language of the mind and emotions are the language of the body. And I think that that's really, really true. And I know that to be true just based on my situation yesterday that's actually led into today. And I won't go into the details of it, but I was around someone who I struggle with, led to, a lot of frustration, a lot of emotional conflict inside. And I was able to deal with that and continue to be around that person and make progress and make the most of the situation. But it did weigh heavy on me, and 24 hours later, it's still weighing heavy on me. Well, with regard to thoughts are the language of the mind and emotions are the language of the body, these two things really come into play because those languages commingle with one another. They talk to each other a lot. I don't know about you. I can only speak for me, but I bet it's true with you and with others that the whole thoughts and emotions thing is almost like this stupid little tennis match that takes place in your life where you'll have this outside stimulus in your environment that triggers a thought that then triggers an emotion, and the emotion then triggers another thought, and that thought triggers more emotion, just fuels it. And this whole little thing is like a hamster wheel that keeps going. It's almost like this tennis match where the game is your reality and the opponents on each side of the net are thoughts versus emotion. And the ball that's being lobbed back and forth is your reality of what's happening. If you think about it that way, it really makes sense. And it's just a tennis match that needs to be stomped out. There's no freaking trophy here. This is not Wimbledon. So to allow that game to keep on going, there's never a victor. There's only a loser. And the loser is you because you're having to deal with these thoughts and these emotions. So what I've kind of come to the realization of after thinking about this for almost 24 hours is that it's possible to control one of those languages. And by doing so, you can control the other. And so what I mean by that specifically is the negative emotion, maybe you can grab a hold of that and maybe you can step away from that. And so what that emotion does is it fuels some kind of stimuli in your body. It makes you feel a certain kind of way, tightens up your gut, or makes your heart beat a little bit faster, makes you feel anxiety. It's all manifested on a physical way. And then so the thoughts, they fuel that and they go back and forth. So if you can find a way to take control of one of the two, either the emotion or the thought, you're able to control the situation because these two can't play tennis with each other anymore. It's really hard to grab a hold of both. It's really hard to control the emotion that you're feeling and the thoughts that you're feeling. And what I found, again, after thinking about this for a little while, is that it's almost easier to grab the body portion of it, the emotional portion of it. If you can grab a hold of that and remove the emotion that you're feeling, the negative thoughts, they kind of trail. And I think what happens is that the mind wants to follow the body because the body is what's manifesting the stimulus from all of this that's going on. It's the body that's actually feeling the anxiety. It's the body that's feeling its heartbeat pick up and start to race. It's the body that feels its stomach start to tense up and your muscles tense up and your neck gets tense. It's all the body, right, that's feeling all this stuff. And I think that then fuels the mind, and they keep playing tennis back and forth with each other. It's almost easier for me, I don't know about you, but to take a deep breath, and maybe a series of them, to be honest with you, depending on the situation. Tell yourself that you don't have to feel the way that you're feeling. You don't have to. You're absolutely in control. You can absolutely control your body. You can absolutely control the way you feel. It takes a lot of work. It's not that easy, but it can happen. And so what I've done today is I've taken a minute to kind of step back, take some deep breaths, and tell myself that I am going to be okay. It's not a matter of if, it's not a question. I'm going to feel good no matter what. And so how do we do that? How do we feel good? How do we control the body and go in that direction where the mind is no longer trailing it and playing tennis with it and feeding it and fueling it? I think the best thing to do is to get busy with something, right? So I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when you're busy doing something, it's pretty hard to think about a lot of other things. It's hard for you to have these racing thoughts if you're focused on doing one thing. So one thing that I like to do is I'll go to the gym and I'll work out. And so what happens is, if only for a little while, if only while I'm at the gym, I'm no longer thinking about what was bothering me. I'm thinking about my workout. I'm thinking about the situation at hand. I've taken an action, and that action has taken my mind off of whatever it was that was fueling me. And so now I'm focused on this action. Now for you, maybe the gym isn't the thing that you want to do, but I really believe that by taking any kind of action, doesn't matter what it is, you can make your mind go in a different direction, and you can start to focus on the thing that your action is related to. So maybe your action is you garden, right? So go out to the garden and pull some freaking weeds, right? Turn some soil, plant some seeds, prune some plants. While you're doing that, you'll start to think about that activity and the thing that was bothering you, the racing thought, the intrusive thought, the negative thoughts that were racing around in your head. They'll kind of drift off, at least for a moment, while you're focused on that task at hand. And if gardening isn't your thing, then maybe you like to cook, right? And I don't mean like go in and make a grilled cheese sandwich. Like, do an action that requires some involvement, that requires you to use your hands, that requires you to put your body in motion, that requires you to take your mind off of what you were thinking about and focus on the action at hand. I swear to you, this works. This absolutely works. This will stomp out negative thoughts, at least for a little while. And maybe you get yourself so preoccupied with what you're doing that what you were thinking about that was bothering you just goes away. It just goes away. You're too busy thinking about this new thing that you're actively working on, this thing that you've taken an action on to do. So again, everybody has their own thing that'll work for them, their own action. But you hear me say a lot of things in these videos about try this, try that, I do this, I do that, maybe it'll work for you. And in some of the videos, you hear me say, give it a try for 30 days. You know, just make a commitment to do this for 30 days and you'll really see some results. You'll really see that whatever it is going to change. Doing this one thing, when you're having negative emotions, negative thoughts, when you're feeling anxiety, when you're all balled up inside and knotted up inside, taking an action, pick your action, whatever works for you, and totally investing in that action and getting engaged in it will absolutely work in one day. You don't need 30 days. You don't need 30 hours. One day. Within 30 minutes, you're going to notice relief. You're going to notice that your anxiety level has gone down. You're going to notice that the things that you were toiling around with in your head, the negative emotions, the racing thoughts, they're going to drift off because you're going to be focused on something that you're physically involved in. It's freaking amazing how well it works. And it works on the first try, every try, without fail. If you're struggling with some anxiety, if you're struggling with negative emotions that are balling you up inside some way, one way or another, eating at you, if you're dealing with emotions that are being fueled by negative thoughts, intrusive thoughts, unwanted thoughts, take an action. Right? The first action you need to take is to decide that you're going to do something. And that doesn't mean do something about the situation that you're feeling. It just simply means do something. Get up and move. Do something. Work on something. Dedicate your time and your effort to doing something that causes you to move your hands, move your body, something that causes you to be focused in order to complete it in a good way. Right? So, and as soon as you do that, your mind's going to change. It's going to go away from whatever was intruding on you, and it's going to focus on the task at hand, and you're going to feel so much better. If at least while you're doing that thing. And maybe you do this enough, you find that this is a remedy. This is a tool in your toolbox that you can use to help you deal with anxiety, to help you deal with negativity, to help you deal with intrusive or racing thoughts, to help you calm a busy mind that just won't slow down. Give it a try. I guarantee you it'll work.